For 300,000 years, humanity conquered nearly every mystery the universe threw at it. We tamed fire. We built tools. We even invented art, long before we invented indoor plumbing. And yet, for reasons historians still find deeply, deeply embarrassing, we had absolutely no idea where babies came from. This is that story. Before we get to the answer, we have to talk about the guesses. And friends, the guesses were not good. Theory 1. Babies were delivered by large birds. This theory persisted for generations, largely because nobody wanted to be the one to suggest an alternative. Theory 2. Babies grew in the ground, like a root vegetable, and simply needed to be harvested at the right time of year. Farming accidents were reportedly common that season. Theory 3. And this one had real staying power. Moonlight. Just moonlight. Entire villages restructured their sleeping arrangements around this theory. Roofs were removed. None of these theories were correct. All of them were deeply, sincerely believed. This is, in many ways, still how the internet works today. But somewhere, on an unremarkable evening, in an unremarkable valley, two unremarkable humans were about to stumble quite literally onto the answer. We'll call them Ugg and Mella, because historians love giving people nicknames they never asked for. It had been a long day of berry disputes and mildly successful hunting. They were cold. The fire was small. And, as anyone who has ever shared a single blanket on a cold night knows, proximity has a funny way of leading to discovery. And so, on this ordinary night, in this ordinary valley, humanity's greatest accidental breakthrough was about to occur. We'll spare you the reenactment. This is a comedy channel, not a lawsuit. What they discovered that night, they did not yet understand. But 9 months is a very effective teacher. And when the results finally arrived, Ugg, to his credit, eventually connected the dots. It only took him 4 months of guessing wrong. Naturally, Ugg wanted to share this breakthrough with the tribe. Naturally, he was a terrible communicator. What he meant to say was fairly simple. What actually came out involved a great deal of hand-waving, several confusing analogies about fire starting, and, for reasons no historian has ever recovered, an impression of a woodpecker. The message spread anyway, because that's what messages do, and, like any good rumor, it got worse with every retelling. By the third village over, the official story was that babies arrived if you danced near a woodpecker under a full moon while holding your breath. It did not work. It did, however, become a beloved seasonal festival that outlasted 3 separate empires. While the rest of the tribe was busy inventing interpretive dance, Ugg and Mella were left to sort out the actual details themselves with, it must be said, very little to go on. They compared notes. They tested a few hypotheses. Most of these hypotheses were wrong, and one of them involved far too much moonlight for comfort. But slowly, through trial, error, and a stubborn refusal to just ask their neighbors for help, they pieced together the general idea. It wasn't birds. It wasn't turnips. And it certainly wasn't the moon's fault. It was them. It had always just been them. A touching realization, undercut slightly by the fact that it took them 4 months and one woodpecker-based religion to get there. You'd think, after all this, humanity would have simply moved on. Story concluded. Mystery solved forever. You would be wrong. Thousands of years later, the exact same conversation still manages to make grown adults deeply, profoundly uncomfortable. Some traditions, it turns out, never really die. We just update the metaphors. Here's the strange part. Of everything humanity has ever discovered, fire, tools, language, the wheel, the one thing responsible for every single human being who has ever existed took us the longest to actually understand. Not because it was complicated, but because nobody wanted to be the one to bring it up first. Which is, in its own ridiculous way, a very human thing to do. We'll cross oceans, split atoms, and build machines that talk back to us. But ask us to simply say the awkward thing out loud, and suddenly we'd all rather invent a woodpecker festival instead. So here's to Ugg and Mella, utterly confused, occasionally ridiculous, and eventually right.